Y aquí estamos. Vamos a hablar un poquito. La primera parte que voy a compartir con ustedes es que cuando nosotros hablamos de cannabis medicinal, estamos hablando de la moña. Específicamente estamos hablando de la moña. Y cuando hablamos de la moña, lo que queremos saber es qué tipo de variedad es. En Puerto Rico se habla de que hay... We got fans in the house. Lo que queremos saber es, en Puerto Rico ya hay como 4,000 diferentes variedades de moña. Eso significa sobre 4,000 diferentes híbridos. Puedo darle un detalle más. De las plantas originarias existen 3. Son las que supuestamente han encontrado desde hace más de 6,000 años alrededor del mundo. Desde Afganistán hasta las Américas. Se habla de algo que se llama la índica, algo que se llama sativa y la rudderlands, que son las 3 principales plantas. De esas han ido mezclándolas, creando híbridos, con la intención de fortalecer los cannabinoides, muy particularmente el cannabinoide del THC o el CBD, que son los principales que la gente reconoce. El THC, el cannabinoides tetra, ese es el principal que la gente reconoce porque es el que te da el high, es el que te da el efecto de estar mareado, ¿no? Pero aparente y alegadamente hay sobre 40 diferentes cannabinoides en lo que hoy conocemos como el cannabis a nivel mundial. Siempre hay 4,000 diferentes variedades. Imagínense lo que hay alrededor del mundo, en lugares como California, donde ha sido legal por ya varios años recreacional, y la investigación en esos estados ha sido muy abrupta, muy amplia. I'm going to go and talk a little bit about English and Spanish. I'm going to try to do both. So here's what we're talking about. We're talking about the cannabinoid system. The cannabis has cannabinoids, and inside the cannabis there are over 40 different cannabinoids. The ones we know the most are the THC and the CBD, are the most frequent heard of ones. The CBD is the one that some people mention with frequent for kids, for example, who have, that's the one you can buy at different stores, and it's not illegal. And that one they use for kids who have, who are autistic or who have seizures. Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, we got fans here. Seizures too. Those are the principal ones. The other one is THC, and that's the one that gives you the high. And they're talking about there's 40 of them and over 400 components that we know of so far. So we're talking about there's a lot of investigation to be done. It's great that it's happening. It's a little sad that it's happening 100 years later, but we're talking about 3 major species. I should say, yeah, 3 major plants are the original plants, the ones that are indica, sativa, and rudderlands. These are the 3 ones that have been crossed to make hybrids. And out of those hybrids in Puerto Rico, we're talking about over 4,000 hybrids on the island already. If you know, you can't bring in, you're not supposed to bring in, you're not supposed to import weed from other places. So in places like Puerto Rico, people are creating legally, there's already an infrastructure created so people can go buy at dispensaries and buy weed that is grown here locally, outside of all the other products that are already being produced on the island. That being said, today we're not going to be using weed, we're going to use oregano because I want to be able to demonstrate this legally, and I don't want to ruin Dawn's beautiful place. So we're going to use oregano. Oregano looks a lot, feels a lot, and it's got a great smell. And I'm going to go through each and every process. So what we need, if you got weed, good for you. If you got oregano, hey, we're going to make some oregano oil. When I talk about vehicles, cuando hablo de vehículos, I'm talking about how we're going to extract the THCs or the cannabinoids from the weed. And in this case, we're going to use olive oil. We're going to use olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. We're going to use the whole 17 ounces and we're going to use half of what would be an ounce, which is 14.2 grams of oregano. there's something that I want to share with you. There are very few chefs in the world who have designed a strategy and a format to be able to pair the weed amounts with the vehicle that you're going to be using. So I want to be the first to give you some hints on how to do this. Hay muy pocos chefs en el mundo que han logrado coordinar lo que es el tamaño de cuando uno compra el cannabis, que son 6 particulares tamaños que se pueden encontrar en el mercado, desde 3.5 gramos, que es lo más pequeño que se puede conseguir, esa es la bolsita pequeñita, hasta la onza, que viene siendo la cantidad más grande, que viene siendo doble de esto, ¿no? Les voy a enseñar más cercano para que lo vean, el tamaño, ¿no? Por ejemplo, doble de esto, este es 14.2 gramos, doble de esto sería una onza. Y yo, cuando hago la recomendación, when I make the recommendations to people, to how to measure how much weed, para explicar a las personas cuánto cannabis deben empezar a usar o usar, probando. Here's one thing, when you smoke marijuana, cuando usted fuma marihuana, you get a more immediate high because it goes directly to your lungs and to your bloodstream. Cuando usted fuma marihuana, va directamente a sus pulmones y a su sistema circulatorio. Entonces tiene un efecto mucho más inmediato, mucho más rápido. That's a benefit, but here's a downfall. It lasts less. The time that you are going to be able to enjoy the high, it's going to be less of a time. So, entonces, cuando usted consume fumándolo, usted lo va a consumir e inmediatamente lo va a sentir cuando lo fuma porque va a su sistema circulatorio. El bajo de eso es que tiene menos tiempo de duración en su cuerpo porque está corriendo por su cuerpo y eventualmente va a durar menos tiempo. When you eat cannabis, when you consume cannabis cooking, when you consume cannabis edibles, you are going to get a high a lot, like half an hour, 15 minutes later, 15 minutes and half an hour later, but it'll last you longer, 2-3 hours maybe, even longer than that. Cuando usted consume por la comida, cuando usted está disfrutando comida canábica, el high, el efecto, dura muchísimo más. El efecto va a darle como en 15 a 20 minutos después de haberlo consumido, va a sentir el efecto y va a durar muchísimo más tiempo que si lo hubiera fumado. Cuando hablo de muchísimo más tiempo, estoy hablando de 2, 3, 4 horas o hasta más. So you're going to get more of a high if you consume edibles. So that's important for people who are starting to experiment with edibles. Eso es bien importante para las personas que están experimentando con el comestible de cannabis o con los cannabis, consumiendo el cannabis cocina, ¿no? La cocina canábica, porque después de después de que usted ha consumido un producto canábico y el producto, por ejemplo, tenía mucho de cannabis y el efecto va a ser intenso por muchísimo más tiempo. Y it's going to be, if you consume cannabis as an edible and it had a lot of THC, a lot of cannabinoids in it, you're going to feel the high for a lot longer. And if you're getting a bad trip, it's not cool because there's no way you can get that out of your system. You're going to have to ride that trip. You know what I'm saying? So, las personas, cuando usted está consumiendo cannabis y lo comió en un bizcochito, en un brownie, en una avena, en un arroz con pollo, en un coquito, ¿no? Cuando usted lo consume, el high va a durar muchísimo más tiempo. Entonces, si consumió demasiado porque no supo cómo medir la dosis, el high va a sentirlo por mucho más tiempo. Y si fue un high malo, fue un trip malo, no va a ser muy agradable. Y es importante, tengo amistades, ustedes conocen quiénes son, que han consumido el cannabis y dicen, pues como probé esto ahora no me dio el efecto, entonces lo voy a probar otra vez, voy a un doble dosis del cannabis. Y cuando le da el efecto, le da la patada, vas a estar sintiendo esto por un tiempo muy largo. You know who I'm talking about. ¿Ok? Con eso los voy a dejar hasta la próxima intervención. Desde aquí, gracias. Ya hemos estado. El horno está prendido. Hemos estado activando lo que es el THC. Voy a hacer un repaso bien breve. Lo que vamos a tratar de hacer es activar el THC y los otros cannabinoides en la moña. Y para eso lo ponemos en el horno a 250 grados por 25 minutos. Here's what we want to do. We want to activate the THC and other cannabis and other cannabinoids inside the weed. So for that, we need to put it in the oven for 25 minutes at 250. If you don't do that, it doesn't activate the cannabinoids. And then when you eat, you consume it, you won't get the high, or you'll get less high. You lose exactly a lot of power because you didn't go through this process. This whole procedure takes about 4 hours, okay? We don't have 4 hours for transmitting, daylight saving times and all that good stuff. We'll probably be dark time, but in the dark before we finish the whole thing. So I brought some oil that I have already, which I use for my salads and which I use for my cakes and which I use for my cookies that I've activated. This one did go through the whole process where I took the weed and then cooked it, and then I cooked it for 4 hours to have this wonderful oil. I mean, it's a wonderful oil. It's got a great flavor and it's got a great taste. So what you need, this is what we're going to do now. We're going to take out the weed, which is oregano in our case. We're going to take it out and we're going to put it inside a little olla, a little pot. You're going to need a steel strainer. You can invest in one. They're really not that expensive. They're probably, I don't know, like $7. You can get one. Puedes comprarte uno de metal, because a lot of the time you're going to be using either hot oils or milks or butters. Entonces, si tienes uno como este que es metal, cuando use la mantequilla o el aceite o cualquier otra cosa caliente, pues no lo va a dañar. Si es plástico, you're risking. If it's plastic, you're going to risk the ruining it. So you need a pot, and I said that I used a whole ounce, the 2 little bags of oregano. So if it was weed, it'd be a whole ounce of weed. And I'm going to use 17 ounces of virgin olive oil. All right? We're going to use this whole thing for that. So this is going to be a really potent oil. All right? Esto va a ser bien poderoso. It's important that you understand that you're going to measure not only how much weed you use and the vehicle you're using. When I talk about vehicle, cuando yo hablo de vehículos, I'm talking about what oil or what milk or what liquid you're going to use. You need to use liquids that have even butter, that have fat, because the fat clings. Necesitas usar líquidos que tengan mucha grasa, ya sea un aceite de oliva, ya sea un aceite de coco, ya sea mantequilla, ya sea leche o yogur. Van a usarlo para poder extraer, porque es allí la grasa extrae el THC. So you need to extract from the vegetable, from the weed, you need to extract the cannabinoids. So for that you need fat. So those are the vehicles that I recommend. The best one that works is the coconut oil. And if you can get really coconut oil or coconut milk or coconut cream, it works really well. Yogurt works really well too. Milk works really well. But I recommend either olive oil or coconut oil. They have the highest amount of grease, of fat, and you'll be able to extract more. Tiene más, el coco me funciona mejor, tiene más capacidad de grasa y que tiene una capacidad para extraer mejor los cannabinoides. Ok, ya voy a sacar desde aquí lo que es la moña, que ha estado ya sus 20 y pico minutos allí puestos. Voy a apagar y voy a sacar. y lo voy a dejar que se enfríe un poquito para llevarlo a la ollita. I'm going to let it cool a little bit, then I'm going to put it inside the pot using the whole 17 ounces of oil. And we're using oil this time. If I was using butter, I'd probably be using 4 sticks, maybe even more for all this weed. If I was using coconut oil, I'd probably use twice as much as this. Huh? This is 14 ounces, so I'll probably use like 3 cans or 4 cans of this so I can get some really good coconut oil. You could use any of these for a whole bunch of products. Salads, you can make rice and beans, you can make steaks, you can make a whole bunch of different products once you have decarbed your oil or your vehicle, that being oil, milk, or butter. Usted usaría este aceite, le va a durar un montón de tiempo en la nevera. It'll last you a while in the fridge. You can have this 5-6 months and it'll still be potent. Puede estar 5 o 6 meses en la nevera y va a ser potente, ¿no? Y lo va a poder usar en ensaladas, lo va a poder usar en bizcochos, en galletitas. Si fuese mantequilla, la mantequilla, butter tends to go bad faster. Después que se comprometió el aceite, put it in the freezer. Yo lo pongo en el freezer y me dura más tiempo. Lo mismo con el aceite de coco. Lo pongo en el freezer aunque se ponga duro. It doesn't matter if it freezes. Once you thaw it out, it'll go back to its natural form. So once this is a little cooler, I'm going to put this whole oil in here, and then I'm going to put the cannabis. All right? So we're going to be back in a few minutes for the ending part of, not the ending part, pre-ending, because we're going to do the oil and then we're going to make a product. All right? And I said I'm going to make some dippings. I'm going to make some dips later on. Okay? No se vayan, voy a hacer unos dips. Voy a hacer el aceite, lo voy a cocinar ya mismo y ustedes verán el producto final para hacer algo que se puede comer, ¿no? Nos vemos ya pronto.